She said she lost the baby at 7 weeks. But I've been sterile since I was 19. We were sitting at the kitchen table when she told me. Just the two of us. Saturday morning. Mid-June. The kind of quiet that only happens when the world outside hasn't realized you're awake yet. The light came through the window in warm stripes across the tile floor. And she said it like she was telling me the weather. I lost it yesterday. I didn't want to call you at work. Her voice was even. No tears. Just coffee and toast and the ghost of a child who never existed. I stared at her for a long time. Maybe too long. You were pregnant? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Because 2 weeks earlier she'd told me. Whispered it in bed like a secret only the dark was allowed to hear. I'd said nothing back then. Just held her tighter. Because I was trying to believe in a miracle. She nodded now, sipping her coffee. Her hand trembled, just a little. I told myself it was the caffeine. I'm sorry, she said, not looking at me. I looked down at my plate. I hadn't touched my eggs. They were going cold. Like everything else. Here's what I didn't say: I can't have children. Haven't been able to since I was 19 years old and wrecked my dirt bike into a ditch in North Carolina. 2 surgeries, 6 weeks of recovery, and a doctor who told me with perfect, practiced sympathy, you're lucky to be alive. But fatherhood might not be in the cards. And I accepted it. I grieved it, quietly, in pieces, over the years. But I accepted it. I'd told 3 people. My mother. My brother. And one ex-girlfriend, long before I met Claire. Not my wife. Never my wife. Why? Because I loved her too much to see her face change. Because I thought if I said it out loud, I'd be the man who took that dream away from her. And maybe part of me hoped they were wrong. That someday, impossibly, I'd be proven wrong too. So when she told me she was pregnant, I didn't confront her. I didn't demand answers. I waited. I watched. And now here we were, pretending to grieve something that never could have been mine to begin with. It just happened, she said. I started spotting Friday morning. By the time I got home, it was. She swallowed. Looked down at her coffee. I nodded. Reached out. Touched her hand. It was cold. I'm sorry, I said, and I meant it. But not for the reason she thought. She stood up after that. Said she needed a shower. Said she was cramping. I watched her walk down the hall, barefoot, slow, shoulders curled inward like she was folding in on herself. When I heard the water running, I finally let my face change. I didn't know what hurt more, the fact that she lied to me, or the fact that part of me still wanted to believe her. I stared at her coffee cup, still half full. Lipstick print on the rim. The sun shifted higher and the shadow on the floor moved. There was no blood on her jeans. No hospital bracelet. No prescription bottles on the counter. Nothing. I stood up and walked slowly toward the bathroom. I didn't knock. I just listened. And I started counting how many lies a person could fit into 7 weeks of silence. I didn't ask questions that day. Not out loud. But my mind didn't stop asking them. Claire came out of the shower wrapped in a towel, her hair dripping, her skin pink and flushed from the heat. She looked at me like she was waiting for me to say something. Anything. I said nothing. She walked past me into the bedroom. Closed the door. The soft click of the latch felt like a wall being built. I stared at that door for a long time. Later that night, she curled into me like nothing had happened. Like there was no body missing, no silence bleeding between our breaths. I kissed her forehead, because I didn't know what else to do. And in the morning, I started looking. Her phone was face down on the kitchen counter. It always was. That wasn't new. What was new was the sudden, strict passcode she'd added a month ago. She said it was because she dropped it at work and the IT guy told her it was safer that way. I hadn't thought much of it then. Now, I remembered that moment in perfect detail. Her hand flinching as I picked it up. The too quick smile. The way she changed the subject. Claire was a private person. Always had been. But now, privacy had hardened into secrecy. I wasn't trying to be a spy. I was trying to be a husband who deserved the truth. The truth didn't want to be found. Her purse had nothing in it but a wallet, a half-used lipstick, gum, and receipts from a boutique I didn't recognize. No prescription receipts. No pharmacy bags. No confirmation of the miscarriage. I opened our shared laptop. She never used it. Only her phone. Still, I checked the browser history. Cleared. I checked it again in private mode. Nothing. Claire never cleared history. She once had opened tabs for a vacation she never booked for 6 straight months. I sat back in the chair and felt the chill move through my spine. This wasn't a mistake. This was a cover-up. The next day, I waited until she left for work and checked the bathroom trash. She was meticulous. Always tied the bag. Always tossed it straight into the bin outside. But that morning, she must have been in a hurry. I untied the liner with slow, deliberate fingers. Inside, tissues. Cotton pads. Empty concealer. A broken eyeliner pencil. No pads. No wrappers. No sign of what she claimed had happened just 2 days ago. The next day, I called the OB/GYN office she'd gone to once, 6 months back, when we were still talking about trying. "I'm sorry," the receptionist said. "We don't have any appointments on record for Claire Landry since February." I thanked her. Hung up. Sat in the garage with the door closed and the engine off, just listening to the ticking of my car cooling down. My wife had lied about being pregnant. Or she'd lied about losing the baby. Either way, she was hiding something. And I wasn't sure how much more of our life was built on that same soft, rotting foundation. That night, I asked her the first real question. We were in bed. Lights off. Her back to me. "Did you go to the doctor?" She tensed. Just for a second. "No. I didn't think it was necessary." "You lost a pregnancy. That's not nothing." She was silent. "Claire. It's my body," she said quietly. "It's my grief. I get to handle it how I want." "Of course," I said, my voice like glass. "Of course." She didn't know I'd already started sleeping with a secret under my pillow, a printed copy of my sterilization report. Proof I could never have made her pregnant. And I wasn't ready to show it to her. Not yet. I wanted to see if she'd give me the truth on her own. But deep down, I already knew. The thing about suspicion is, once it starts, it doesn't sit still. It spreads. It grows arms and legs. It learns to speak. By the end of that week, mine was fluent in paranoia. Claire started working late. Not dramatically late. Just 30, 40 minutes past usual. Enough to seem plausible. Enough to be questioned. "Sorry," she'd say, tossing her bag down and kicking off her heels. "Debbie's new assistant is useless. I have to redo all the numbers." Her kiss was brief. Perfume heavy. But something lingered underneath, a note I didn't recognize. Too warm. Too soft. Someone else's cologne. I noticed it Wednesday. Faint. Almost nothing. But not me. Not anything I wore. Thursday night, I told her I might swing by her office the next day to bring lunch. She smiled. But it was the wrong kind. "Oh, no, don't. We've got back-to-back client meetings." The conference room will be chaos. Not a single beat of hesitation. But I saw it in her eyes, a flicker, a defensive blink. Like she'd prepared for the question and rehearsed the answer. That night I lay awake while she slept, curled toward me, her breath slow and steady against my shoulder. I watched the ceiling fan rotate and rotate and rotate. At 3:12 a.m. I made a decision. Friday morning, I didn't go to work. Instead, I drove to the address she gave me months ago when she started this new position. 4th floor of a mid-sized building tucked between a gym and a juice bar. I waited across the street in my truck. At 8:43 a.m. Claire pulled into the lot. Parked. Sat in her car for 2 full minutes. Checking her face in the mirror. Smiling once, a slow, private smile I hadn't seen in months. Then she got out and walked inside. Alone. At 12:16 p.m. she walked back out. But not alone. A man followed her. Mid-30s. Button-down shirt. No tie. Confident walk. He touched her lower back. Just briefly. Claire didn't flinch. They crossed the street together. Walked 2 blocks east. Into a cafe I'd never heard of. I waited 5 minutes. Then followed. They sat at a corner booth. Facing each other. Leaning in. I didn't go inside. I couldn't. Instead, I stood across the street, watching them through the window. She laughed at something he said. Touched his arm. He smiled like he'd earned it. I didn't recognize the man. But I recognized the look. I'd worn it myself, once. Long ago. When we were new. They stayed for 40 minutes. I stayed for all of it. At 1:08, she stood and kissed him. Not on the cheek. Not polite. Not professional. A slow, lingering kiss with her hand on his chest and his fingers brushing her jaw. When they parted, her face glowed in a way I hadn't seen in years. Then they turned and walked in opposite directions. She didn't look back. But I did. I watched until she disappeared into the building again. And I stood there, suddenly frozen with the understanding that it hadn't just started. This wasn't a fling. This wasn't a mistake. This was something that had been happening for a while. And now it had a face. I didn't sleep that night. I lay beside her while she dreamt, maybe of him, maybe of nothing. The silence between us wasn't heavy, it was hollow. Like the quiet inside a cave before a scream. In the morning, I looked at her face in the bathroom mirror while she brushed her teeth. The same face I'd kissed 1,000 times. The same lips that had said, I lost the baby. And now I knew. There had never been a baby. Or if there was, it wasn't mine. She saw me watching her. Smiled through the toothpaste. What? I smiled back. Nothing. Just tired. She leaned in and kissed my cheek, like always. Her hand rested on my chest for a second longer than usual. Maybe guilt. Maybe habit. It didn't matter anymore. I waited until she left for work. Waited 20 more minutes. Then I went to our closet. Top shelf. Her old jewelry box. The one she hadn't used since we moved in 3 years ago. Inside, beneath the tangle of cheap necklaces and a broken watch, a burner phone. I don't know what I expected. A message? A photo? A number saved as Debbie from work. It was locked. But not well. Claire wasn't careful, not in the ways that counted. Her birthday didn't work. Our wedding date didn't work. But the name of our dog, Millie. That opened it. And there it was. Dozens of messages. A name I didn't know, Ethan. Ethan, thinking about yesterday. About how you tasted. Claire, I'm sore. But in the best way. I stopped reading. I didn't need more. The screen blurred. My heart didn't break. It slowed. Like it was preparing to stop entirely. I sat on the edge of the bed, holding the phone like it was something alive. And then I looked around the room, our room, and realized I didn't know where I was anymore. Everything looked the same. But nothing was real. I printed the messages. Not all. Just enough. Enough to end a marriage without a word. And then I did something I hadn't done in a long, long time. I pulled out the letter from my doctor, the one that had lived in the back of my sock drawer for years, folded crisp like a threat. It read, azoospermia. 0 motile sperm. Infertility confirmed. I made a copy. Put it in the envelope with the messages. And on the front, I wrote, in case you still think I don't know. I left it on her pillow. That night, I didn't wait for her to come home. I checked into a cheap motel on the edge of town. Nothing fancy. Nothing that smelled like her. I sat on the end of the bed and listened to the ice machine hum through the walls. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just waited for the silence inside me to grow loud enough to drown everything out. She didn't call that night. Not once. No texts. No voicemail. Just nothing. And that was almost worse than a scream. I sat in the motel armchair, the lamp off, the TV on mute, and waited for the guilt to kick in. For the self-doubt. For the part of me that would start whispering, maybe you overreacted. Maybe there's another explanation. But it didn't come. Because some betrayals are too sharp to second guess. Too loud to ignore. The motel smelled like old cigarettes and artificial lemon. The sheets were stiff. The air conditioner rattled every time it kicked on. And still, I slept better than I had in weeks. I woke to sunlight slicing through the plastic blinds, and one thought anchored itself in my chest. She read it. Back at the house, everything looked untouched from the outside. Her car was there. Trash bins still at the curb. The world hadn't ended. It had just continued. I let myself in. The envelope was gone from the pillow. In its place, silence. She was sitting in the kitchen. No coffee. No toast. Just her, in the same clothes she wore yesterday, staring at nothing. When she heard me, she didn't flinch. Just looked up, hollow. Like a reflection of herself. You knew, she said quietly. I nodded. Didn't sit. How long? Since the morning you said you lost it. She winced. Not from the words, but the truth underneath. I didn't plan it like this. No. She swallowed. Rubbed her hands together. They shook. I wanted to tell you. I was going to. But then I saw you. And you looked so happy. For the first time in months. So you let me believe I was going to be a father. I didn't know how to undo it. I laughed, short, bitter. It echoed off the tile. You could have started with honesty. Claire stood. Moved toward me, slow. I never stopped loving you. Even when I don't. She froze. I took a step back. You don't get to pull that card. Not now. He doesn't mean anything. You kissed him like he meant everything. Her eyes filled, but the tears didn't fall. Maybe she knew they wouldn't help. How long has it been going on? She hesitated. Claire. Almost a year. The room twisted. A year? She nodded. Looked away. You told me we were in a rough patch. That you needed space. That you were tired. I was. I am. I didn't know how to fix us. And then Ethan. Don't say his name. I couldn't look at her. I focused on the floor. The corner of the rug. A tiny stain by the fridge. Anything but her face. Was he the father? Yes. The word was barely audible. And you told him it was his? No. I didn't tell anyone. I hoped. I thought maybe. That it could be mine. She didn't answer. You knew I couldn't. And you still let me believe. Finally, the tears came. I'm sorry. I looked at her, really looked. And I saw someone I didn't recognize. Not the woman I married. Not the woman I built a life with. Just a stranger wearing her face. So what now? She asked, voice cracking. Now. I walked to the door. Opened it. Now you figure out what it's like to sit in silence and wonder who you are. Because that's what you left me with. I didn't slam the door. I closed it softly. Like an exhale. Like the end of something that had already died. I stayed away for 3 days. Not because I needed space, that's a lie people tell when they want to delay the inevitable. I stayed away because I needed to feel what it was like to not be near her. To hear no footsteps in the hall. No humming from the kitchen. No perfume on the pillows. And in that silence, I realized something terrifying. I didn't miss her. I missed the idea of her. The version of Claire I'd carried in my head for years. But the real woman, the one who lied, who pretended, who kissed someone else in daylight, she wasn't mine. Maybe never was. On the 4th day, I came back. Not to reconcile. To collect. The house was still. A tomb painted in pastels and good intentions. Her shoes by the door. A coffee mug in the sink. The ghost of normalcy trying too hard. She was sitting on the couch, knees pulled to her chest, wearing one of my old hoodies. A move, maybe, meant to pull sympathy. Or memory. You came back, she said. Just for some things. Claire nodded, staring at the floor. I made tea. I'm not staying. A pause. Heavy. Like the moment before the storm hits. I called my sister, she said. I'll go stay with her. I looked at her. Really looked. There was no fight left in her. No explanations. No excuses. Just the hollow shell of someone who knew the damage was permanent. What do you want from me, Claire? Her eyes found mine. I want you to remember the parts that were good. The parts that were real. They were real to me, I said. But were they real to you? Even at the end? She didn't answer. That was the answer. I packed in silence. Just the essentials, clothes, documents, tools. I left the wedding album. Not out of anger, but because it no longer belonged to me. In the bedroom, I opened the top drawer of her nightstand. A habit. I don't know why. Inside, folded neatly, was a letter. My name on the front. Nothing else. I hesitated. Then opened it. Mike. You were the best man I ever knew. And I ruined it. There is no excuse. Only regret. I don't expect forgiveness. But I need you to know, the worst part isn't losing you. It's knowing I never deserved you. Claire. No theatrics. No manipulations. Just honesty, finally, when it was too late to matter. I put the letter back. Didn't take it. Some truths are best left behind. As I zipped my bag and walked out, she didn't follow. She didn't cry. She just sat there, holding a mug of tea that had long gone cold. And I walked away. Not with rage. Not with grief. But with something quieter. Heavier. Clarity. The first night in my brother's guest room, I dreamed of our wedding. Not the photos. Not the edited version we showed everyone. But the moment no one else saw, Claire in the hallway before the ceremony, holding my hand with both of hers, whispering, "Promise me we'll never give up. Even when it's hard." I had. And I kept that promise long after she broke hers. Waking up was like resurfacing through ice. My brother, Dan, didn't ask questions. He just handed me coffee and changed the subject when I couldn't find words. His wife left for work early, and their house felt like borrowed calm. "Stay as long as you need," he said. "You're not a guest. This is home now." It was the kind of kindness that makes you ache. I told him everything 2 days later. He didn't interrupt. Didn't offer clichés. Just sat with it. Let it settle. "Man," he said finally. "She really did a number on you." I nodded. Stared at my knuckles. Dan leaned forward. "You want to know the truth?" I looked up. "You're lucky." That caught me off guard. Lucky? You found out. That's more than most people get. You didn't waste your whole life thinking it was real. Now you can start again. I didn't feel lucky. I felt hollow. But something about his words rooted in me began to grow. I started running again. Mornings, before the sun made everything loud. Just the sound of my breath, my shoes, and a playlist from better years. I stopped checking her socials. Deleted our shared photo drive. I let silence fill the space she left, and didn't rush to cover it. Grief is strange. You don't just miss the person, you miss the version of yourself who loved them. And that guy, he was gone, too. One night, I got a message. Just a single line. "Claire, I saw your old hoodie in the closet. Still smells like you. I'm sorry." I didn't answer. Some part of me wanted to. Just to say, "I know." Or "Me too." Or "I forgive you." But I didn't owe her that anymore. And I was learning, slowly, that some closures don't come with conversations. They come with silence. That night, I slept without dreams. And in the morning, the sun felt a little warmer on my skin. I didn't see Claire again until the divorce papers were ready. We met in a neutral place, the glass conference room of a downtown legal office with uncomfortable chairs and too much echo. Everything was white and stainless steel, like the inside of a wound that never scabs. She looked smaller. Not thinner, just dimmer. Like someone turned down the brightness. "Hi," she said softly. I didn't answer. The lawyer did most of the talking. Schedules. Assets. Signatures. There wasn't much to divide. No children. No shared debts. Just memories, and those weren't legally binding. Claire kept glancing at me, like she wanted to say something more. I didn't give her the chance. When it was over, she stood to leave. But before she reached the door, she turned. "Do you hate me?" she asked. I blinked. And for the first time since all of it, since the fake pregnancy, since the burner phone, since the man with his hand on her back, I told her the truth. No. I don't hate you. But I don't love you anymore either. And that's harder. She didn't cry. She just nodded. And then she left. It didn't feel like victory. It felt like watching the tide pull back after a storm. You're still standing, but the beach has changed forever. Back at Dan's that night, I stood in the backyard and stared at the stars. One of them flickered so brightly I thought it might burn out right in front of me. Maybe that's what we'd been, a brief, bright thing that couldn't hold its shape. My phone buzzed. Not Claire. An old friend from college. Melissa. She'd seen the update. Reached out to check in. I hadn't spoken to her in years. "Just wanted you to know," her message read, "you always deserve more than what you settled for." Let me know if you ever want to talk. I didn't reply right away. Instead, I sat with it. Let it sit in my chest like a quiet question. What if there's still something good ahead? Not right away. But someday. And for the first time since everything fell apart, I didn't feel the need to answer it. Not yet. Sometimes, survival is enough. And peace, real peace, doesn't come with closure. It comes with choosing not to bleed for someone who never bothered to stop the knife. 6 months later, I stood in the same kitchen where she once told me she'd lost a child that was never mine. Only now, it wasn't our kitchen. It was just mine. The walls were repainted. The old photo frames gone. The fridge held only what I needed, and nothing I didn't. And I was okay. Not great. Not healed. But okay. It had taken everything to get here, every morning run, every silent night, every small decision not to spiral. One afternoon, while sorting mail, I found a letter tucked between bills. No return address. Just my name, in handwriting I knew better than my own. I stared at it for almost a minute. Then opened it. Mike. This will be the last time I reach out. I promise. I saw your brother at the hardware store. He said you're doing well. I'm glad. Truly. I don't expect you to forgive me. I know what I did. But I wanted to thank you, for not burning everything to the ground. For not turning me into a villain in front of our friends. For walking away quietly when I deserved noise. I've started over too. It's not glamorous. But it's honest. And I think that's more than I've ever had. Be well. I mean it. Claire. I folded the letter. Didn't tear it. Didn't keep it. I just stood by the sink for a long time, the paper warm in my hands, and felt something shift. Not forgiveness. But release. Later that evening, I called Melissa. The old college friend. We talked for almost an hour. About everything and nothing. About music. About coffee. About the way people grow apart, and sometimes, if you're lucky, find their way back to themselves. When I hung up, the house felt a little less empty. Maybe that's how healing begins. Not with declarations. But with conversations. Not with justice. But with gentleness. And not with going back. But with stepping forward, one quiet breath at a time.